How do you go about educating tomorrow's entrepreneurs within a university setting? We are on location at Boston University Questrom School of Business at the Build Lab, part of Innovate at BU, and our guest is Managing Director Liang. Welcome to the Language of Business.
Hello, Greg. Good to be here with you.
Good to have you here. Lee, the Innovate at BU is the parent organization for entrepreneurial activities across the entire university, but how does the physical space, research, programming, and classes integrate itself within that umbrella organization of sorts?
Yeah, I think a lot about the Innovate initiative as really this university-wide. But the Build Lab itself, we fit in the sense that we offer a physical space for students and recent alum to come in and what I call pursue their dreams, because we offer extracurricular programs for students and recent alum to, if they want to, build their own ventures, for profit or nonprofit, or even just a large project with social impact. Or if they don't want to be a founder at the moment, or they don't want to create any project, learn the skills to be innovative, to be entrepreneurial, and learn the mindset. And third of all, if you're just starting out to learn about what is innovation, they come in here to meet others who are like-minded, who want to create change, as well as meet established entrepreneurs, innovators to get inspired.
I love it. Lots of universities have incubators, accelerators, maker spaces. How would you characterize the Build Lab at BU?
We're much more than that. I think about the Build Lab as where students come in to become themselves. We all have our own passions. Here is the lab where people come in to explore what do they care about, and to learn the skills to truly pursue their dreams and make their dreams come true. When I think about accelerators, incubators, that's a part of what we do. It's an important part of what we do, but we're much bigger than that.
Innovate at BU offers something called the Innovation Pathway, which is a comprehensive program that a student or a team can bring their idea from the conceptual stage to fruition. I also know that Innovate offers a number of venture competitions. How does the Innovation Pathway sort of mesh with those venture competitions?
And thank you for that question, because currently we're giving away $64,000.
That's a good amount of money.
Yes, right, through our annual new venture competition.
But this is different than the Innovation Pathway.
It is now, but they are not explicitly linked, but let me talk about why they are connected. Because through the Innovation Pathway, we guide students, as you mentioned, right, through the process, including a dedicated innovation coach, access to industry mentors, pitching opportunities, and up to $3,000 of progress funding. And the milestones.
Without any strings attached?
No strings attached. Everything I would say here you do at the Build Lab is yours, and including if you get the $64,000, right?
IP rights and everything else that goes
Exactly.
Into it. Yep.
And as students work through the Innovation Pathway program and achieve the milestones, it essentially gets them close to what the new venture competition is looking for. So while they're not explicitly linked, people who come through the Innovation Pathway, they are essentially getting more and more well prepared for the new venture competition.
And what does the new venture competition look for?
We look for early stage BU student or recent alum entrepreneurs who are working on a solution that is addressing a large, important, and unmet problem. And they show high potential to turning their idea into a scalable venture. And that could be either a nonprofit venture or for-profit venture, because it's got two tracks actually. We care a lot about social impact at the Build Lab. So it's got a general ventures track and then a social impact ventures track.
Lee, how does a student walk through the door and then say 5 or 6 months later, walk back out with their own IP or their own project?
I would first answer in the way that 6 months, it's not enough time. However, as they learn how to identify the problems, and then they go out and do things in the real world, whereas we here offer them the resources and help them understand the approach, get the skills, and they would then apply the skills and learn through that process.
You're off to an incredibly successful start. Where do you see the Build Lab being in, say, 3 to 5 years?
So I do want to talk about our successful start. We were created back in 2018, and in end of 2020, we've won the category of Best Emerging Entrepreneurship Center.
Congratulations.
Yes, and then so what I think about at the Build Lab is the strength of the BU innovation community lies in the nearly 20 schools that we have, where there's all different kinds of subject matter experts. And there's the trainings that students go through. So we offer workshops, we offer speaker series, and then we offer what we call self-directed learning programs, but with additional resources. For example, the Innovation Pathway, because we believe this is not classroom. We bring the real world to you. We want you to go after that here. We give you the resources, but it's about you. Do you want to push this forward? And if you do, we are here for you. So in 3 to 4 years, I see the Build Lab as becoming an even more vibrant place than today, where people from different disciplines and backgrounds come in and engage in a wide range of entrepreneurship activities and positive impact in society and their own lives.
Lee, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Lee Liang, Managing Director of the Build Lab under the umbrella organization Innovate at BU.
Big choices after college, right? Grad school, maybe? Soar from your undergraduate major to a great career in business. Biomedical engineer to healthcare analyst. Health science to clinical systems analyst. Mechanical engineer to solutions engineer. Before you know it, you can have a master's degree in management studies. 9 months and you're in business.
So many of us come up with that great idea and want to see it become a reality. But what does it take when you actually go under the hood? We're on location with Noah Sorin, who is the founder of Idori, and welcome to the Language of Business.
Thanks, Greg.
What does Idori do?
All right, so basically, Greg, last year I came to Boston University and I joined the first year innovation program here at the Build Lab.
You're a sophomore?
Yes, I am a sophomore.
Yep, okay.
And one of the first things they tell you is to find a problem that you want to address. And growing up in northern Vermont, I really cared about the environment, I really care about sustainability, so I knew I wanted to do something in that field. But one place that I kind of saw a gap, something that needed to be addressed even more, it was in education. Especially little kids, they don't really learn enough about the environment and how their individual behavior and habits kind of make an impact on the planet. So we're starting with a line of stuffed animals that are accompanied by picture books, where
Nice.
each stuffed animal / picture book will be different aspect of the environment. For example, there is Benji the tree monger, who will teach little kids about deforestation,
Yep.
or Gibo the puffball, who teaches kids about air pollution.
Did you come up with this idea before you started at BU in your freshman dorm? Tell us how everything really played itself out.
Well, I met a friend of mine named Brett Siegel in one of my first classes here at BU, and he was the first person that I met here who was also interested in entrepreneurship. So we actually joined that first year innovation cohort together, and during the ideation stage, we both talked about how sustainability was an important problem that needed to be addressed, and we both thought that education was a good avenue for that. And Brett, being an avid fan of Webkins, said that we should try to create kind of an online platform that's connected to some kind of like physical toy that really engages with the kids.
Very cool.
And neither of us knew how to code, so kind of creating that online video game type platform would have been really difficult for the two of us before finding any other members to bring onto our team. So something that seemed a little more feasible for kind of a short-term goal was to develop the toy that would accompany the video game.
So you got the concept iced, but then how did you actually go about launching it?
In early development, it's all about validation. So we started with the problem validation, so just interviewing little kids, asking them what they know about the environment, how familiar they are with climate change, or what recycling actually does. And then once we knew that the problem was real and validated, we needed to go about making the product. Obviously, it's difficult to kind of like find manufacturers when you have such limited funding. The Build Lab does provide some resources to help get you started. So I'm using stipends provided from the Build Lab to pay for an industrial designer to kind of make those first 3 prototypes. And then kind of the next stage of development is to go out and take those 3 prototypes. And I'm currently having someone illustrate those books. So when those illustrations are done, I'll be able to take the stuffed animals along with the picture books, go to public libraries and do readings. I'll be able to take them to elementary schools, give them to kids, and just get a lot of user feedback. Hopefully we'll be able to find some answers in the coming months.
What is it going to take for you to launch successfully? Is it a certain number of customers, a certain stipend that you're waiting to receive? Help us understand that, please.
Kind of the biggest thing is putting the right team members together. I know how much I believe in this idea myself, and I think that I just need to find some other people who believe in it as much as I do to really push it. And it just takes a certain level of persistence and perseverance to really make it happen. But ultimately, we need, more innovative creators and more brains in the room to just come up with ideas for marketing and development.
Noah, how are you finding team members or contractors to help you further build the idea?
Well, that's a little complicated, Greg. So I found that kind of more organic networking is what keeps that human connection there, which is what people are really looking for when they want to be passionate about a project. You know, people aren't buying the product, they're buying the belief behind the product. And that belief is that we're creating something that really does have the ability to change the world.
What is the single biggest thing that keeps you up at night about the future of your business?
That there aren't going to be enough people who believe as much as I do in what this business can and hopefully will accomplish. I mean, I've met a lot of people who I tell this idea to and they say, that's really interesting, or oh, that's really cute, or that sounds like a good idea. But I've only met a few people who really say like, oh my God, that's an incredible idea. How can I help you manifest that into a reality?
I liked your use of the term validation. Fast forwarding 2 years, you have gotten everything produced, you've given some of it away, you've sold hopefully a lot of it. How will you determine whether you have been or are successful 2 years later?
Well, you know, I like to set both short and long-term goals. So obviously, you know, long-term, this is a business that I think has the capacity to make real-world impact.
A for-profit business or not-for-profit?
I mean, I think it is a for-profit business.
Yep.
Just based off of the business model. But I mean, the main goal of the company is not to generate profit. It's to kind of build understanding in society of different environmental problems and how individual behavior kind of impacts the planet in those ways.
Sounds really, really great. Congratulations on what you've achieved so far.
Really appreciate it.
Noah Sorin, the founder of Idori, one of the products of the Build Lab here at Boston University. How do you develop curriculum from scratch that teaches entrepreneurship in a vibrant economy? We are on location with Ian Mashiter, who is Director of Curriculum for Innovate BU, and welcome to the Language of Business.
Thank you very much, Greg. Good to be here.
Ian, you come from an entrepreneurial background. You've built companies, you've financed companies, you've been teaching for several years. How did you apply that experience to building an entrepreneurial program essentially from scratch?
When I came to Boston University, we did have entrepreneurship classes in the curriculum, but we had very little activity on the extracurricular side. And we got given a tiny space on a fourth floor of a brownstone, and that was
on the BU campus.
On the BU campus, and that was what we called the Buzz Lab. And the reaction was really positive, and so that experiment gave us the confidence to go forward.
What makes Innovate, however, different than other universities that have similar programs?
So we looked at other universities very carefully as part of the benchmarking, and a lot of the universities, the Entrepreneurship Center is located within a particular academic school. You know, what we'd experienced is that students are parochial. You know, if they're an engineer, they're not as attracted to an initiative by the business school. So having Innovators as a campus-wide resource has been great. The students realize it's not affiliated to a school and that it's welcoming to all, and that's been really important.
In preparing for this interview, it was not lost on me that you're not evaluating student ventures based on traditional metrics. How much money did they raise? What's their valuation? What's their exit strategy?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, so that's really an important point, Greg. So if you think about our mission, compared to, say, a commercial accelerator like a Mass Challenge or a Techstars, your job is to measure by how many startups you created, how much money they raised, how many jobs they created. So our mission is to give students the chance to have some entrepreneurial experience that they can apply to whatever job or profession they go into. So our idea is they do have some startup experience while they're here.
So almost an entrepreneurial approach, that they're not necessarily launching a freestanding startup, but they're using what they learn to make better business decisions.
Right, and the other thing that we realized is that if we were to judge by the number of startups and the amount of money raised, as you mentioned, that actually was a trap. And would actually be detrimental to our mission.
In the past 5 to 10 years, companies, entrepreneurs, financiers have moved from 40-page business plans to pitch decks.
Right.
What do you see the next 5 or 10 years being in terms of teaching entrepreneurship educationally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you think about why we moved from business plans to this more action-orientated, is really because, you know, the business plan doesn't work. As soon as you get exposed to customers, the business plan is out. So we focused on getting them involved with customers as soon as they can. Don't sit in a room writing a plan that's going to be out of date the day you finish it. Get involved with customers and exposed to them, learn what they want, learn what their problems are, iterate, you know, test and iterate.
You mentioned a few moments ago, Ian, that having entrepreneurs, especially those affiliated with Innovate, get in front of customers is so vitally important.
Right.
COVID, unfortunately, has changed so much of how companies have to communicate with their customers, support their customers. If you could give one piece of advice to future entrepreneurs, either inside or outside of academia, about increasing their probability for success, what would it be?
If you think about this current generation of students, they're used to being able to find all of the answers behind their laptop, right? That they can Google any answer they want in the world.
In multiple languages too, right? Yes.
And have it translated
right.
to multiple languages. So everything is there. Getting those students to understand that any new venture, the answer is not behind that screen, is a challenge. Getting them actually talking to people, and especially to strangers, is a challenge, because they're less and less exposed to that.
And would that same piece of advice apply to executives outside of academia?
It absolutely does. In fact, we're working on a class about corporate innovation at the moment, and it's exactly those same themes. It's really interesting that many of the principles and templates and programs that we've come up with, that people have come up with to teach entrepreneurship, are now being used in the corporate world, which is really fascinating. It's a set of different challenges, but some of those same principles. And in response to your question about COVID, COVID has had many downsides, but one of the upsides is that they're being exposed to a wider set of customers from geographically diverse areas, because now everybody's comfortable with, let's do a Zoom call.
Sure.
So it really doesn't matter if that person's in, Tokyo, London, or Los Angeles, right? And so the students are appreciating or realizing that those kind of boundaries of trying to make meetings in coffee shops, it could be a lot wider and a lot more efficient on time.
Ian, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Greg. Thank you.
Ian Mashiter, Director of Curriculum for Innovate at Boston University.
Are you a problem solver? Do you see the big picture and the small details? Want to turn big data into big decisions? Take AI to the boardroom. Translate rocket science into the science of business? Build your career at digital speed with a Master of Science in Business Analytics. Be ready for careers like analytics consultant, data science, analytics strategist, data translator, BI analyst, technical business analyst. 10 months and you're in business analytics.
People tell you all the time, if at first you don't succeed, try again, but how much of a consolation is that when you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. realizing that your venture is a bust? We're on location with Glo Robinson, who's a senior here at Boston University in the College of Communications, and welcome to the Language of Business.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your first venture.
All right, so I was a sophomore. So about 2 years ago, around this time, I was kind of brewing this idea, and I had no idea that I was embarking on the idea of starting a startup. So the context was I had a podcast at the College of Communication called Go Off, and it was all about the unrepresented Gen Z perspective. We'd cover things like why young people don't vote, why everyone's obsessed with the 80s from my generation. Just go to Urban Outfitters, like you'll get
the hair, the clothes, or something else?
All the above.
All of the above.
Just go there.
D, all of the above. Choice D, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so basically what I found, 2 pain points or observations at the time. A lot of my friends really wanted to be on the podcast as like guest appearances. And I said, guys, you're not going to become famous on this thing. We have a listening population smaller than a lecture hall. Why would you want to be on my podcast? Like, I'm flattered. And then the second thing was I was becoming such a content junkie, like listening to podcasts and reading things on the New York Times or going on subreddits late into the night. And I was like, gosh, I really want to chat with the people who write these comments. How do I do that? So what we did was found a target market of content creators that were struggling to have organic engagement with their audience members. So we said, hey, imagine as if you could just have a capped conversation, 10 people, over Zoom or text-based. And then what we would do is take the recordings of those conversations and provide actionable insights for the content creator to reduce their time for content creation. So it was kind of like a focus group to the content creators and then a way for the audience members to get to know each other through the content creator.
And did you have a 3 a.m. moment staring at the ceiling, realizing that things weren't going as planned?
You know, I wouldn't say it was that. I think it was more out of, we were going in the right direction. We had figured out a B2B model. We landed a pilot with Salesforce even. So like things were actually going pretty well.
Right.
But it was more about the time of, you know, my team had this idea, me included, that Go Off was going to be our job after graduation. It was going to be our future. It was going to be our full-time future. But when I looked at sort of like, you know, we made some no-code MVPs, did some more validation testing, we were going in the right direction. I'm like, okay, what's the sustainability of this? What's our burn rate? What's our runway at this point with the nimble amount of funding we had received? And how we were going to manage this with the second semester senior year schedule? I think as much as I really want to keep this up and I believe in this idea, like reality. It was a question of reality and responsibility. Like I have a responsibility to my team that is depending on me, and when I don't want to have that conversation of, hey, yeah, sorry, we ran through all our cash, we're done now. Like I'm like, let's do this while we still have time and really come up with a solid plan to figure out what our next steps are while we're still here at BU.
So I wouldn't call that a failed venture as much as of a reassessment of what's happening.
Yeah.
What does reality look like for you? Are you going to go at it alone? Are you going to take what you've learned and apply it to a new venture? What happens next?
What happens next? Great question. We're still figuring that out at the moment. So what I've decided to do is I want to work in a bigger institution. I love startups with a burning passion.
In a job or a startup in a larger incubator?
Probably a job. I'm in the middle of some final rounds right now, actually, which is pretty exciting. It's more overwhelming choosing what I really want to do.
If you had to grade your own venture on an A to F scale, how would you do so?
Oh my goodness. I think it depends on what sectors. Like, I mean, what do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about, you know, meeting deliverables? Do we want to talk about team management? Do we want to talk about, there's so many factors.
How about items that a founder might need?
A founder might need, I think the first thing is passion. You need passion. Like, you're riding or dying with this thing. You wake up every single morning and you're like, I love what I do. Oh gosh, okay, I'm realizing I'm like such a potty mouth, I'm so sorry. And I think for me, one of the signs to end my venture was, like, I still was in love with Go Off, but I was like, I'm starting to feel burnt out. Because the thing is, you always have to be so ingrained with it, and I feel bad for any founder that's slaving away at something they just don't have that burning passion for.
So would you give yourself an A for effort and a C for implementation?
Yes. I think implementation, because there was a lot of things I didn't know how to do. I had to learn on the fly. Like, I mean, I'm creating like a new side project. It's not a venture, but I'm doing half the things in half the time because I just know what to do. Like, okay, how it works. Let's do a user flow. Let's figure out what's the vision of this. But, you know, me coming into this, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about code. I knew nothing about wireframes. I knew nothing about how to work with devs. Like, you know, it's funny. The way I would describe this is there's 2 types of operators in the world. There's the why operators that are the big visionaries, the big ideas, and then there are the how operators, which are incredible executors. I think I'm a really good why operator. I learned how to become a good how operator, but I could have been a better how operator. And I think if I was a little bit more, instead of, like, I didn't change my mind so much, but it was more of like, I would almost like hear all this information and I would want to integrate it as fast as I could so I could say, hey, I'm doing cutting edge things, as opposed to just like, okay, Glo, you don't need that extra thing, or we don't need to try that target segment. All right, 1 target segment's enough. You don't need to try 2.
Glo, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Glo Robinson, aspiring entrepreneur, innovator, or C, all of the above.
Support for the Language of Business is from Boston University Questrom School of Business. We're also available as a podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get podcasts. Thanks for watching.